This is part 2 of pulling the engine from this 2007 Chevy Cobalt Sport. I did a lot of the prep work in the last video, and now I'm going to take off the rear engine mount and then start with all the little stuff before I pull the engine. So this should give me a little more access to the rear engine mount. I'm going to remove this splash guard, and this should give me a little bit more room to get in here and pull out the bolts for the rear engine mount. Alright, so that is where the rear engine mount is located. It hooks from the back of the engine to the transmission. Looks like it takes a 15 millimeter. Alright, to get this rear upper bolt on the back side of the motor mount that mounts the engine to the transmission. For the top one, you need a 15 millimeter, but you really can't get a ratchet and a socket up there, so you have to use a wrench. And a little trick, if you don't have enough leverage on just a single wrench, you use a another one, put them together, and that gives you a bunch of leverage. So next I'm going to get the bottom bolts. This right here is one of the coolest tools from Harbor Freight. You push this button and you can swivel the ratchet any which way. So this really comes in handy in situations like this where it's a little tight. Because you can get like the ultimate leverage. Looks like so far there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on the bottom of the engine connecting the transmission, and then one right above where the starter would be. So this is the bolt for the engine to the transmission, and it's right above where the starter would be. Two top 18mm bolts. The two upper bolts for the engine to transmission are removed. So unlike the manual transmission cars, you actually don't need to remove the front transmission mount because it doesn't connect to the engine anywhere. So it looks like the last thing holding this engine in is the top motor mount. Now to remove the fuel line. So whenever you remove the fuel line, you're going to want to bleed any excess pressure off by using the Schrader valve. Alright, so there's no more gas. Well, there is, but the pressure's been off, so now I can disconnect the fuel line. And to disconnect the fuel line, it just has this little safety clip. And then use a fuel line tool. All right, use a fuel line tool to get underneath here, and then push down as you push up with the tool, and that just releases it. There you go. All right, so we're pretty much almost ready to go. So I'm gonna have to remove the hood. So I want to do this when it's not raining and I have plenty of time. Okay, what I found better than chains is seatbelt, because if you're selling the engine, you never have to take this off and the next person can use it to move the engine, and you're not constantly replacing chains. And I love the Ecotec engine because it has built-in hooks to pull the engine, which makes it easy. Now for the fun part. I'm going to remove the hood and pull the engine out. To remove the hood, there are 4 13mm bolts. And then for the shock, you pull out this little clip, and then this just pulls out. Now before I remove the top motor mount, I'm going to get some tension on the engine. These seat belts work great. And these bolts take a 16 millimeter or an 8 millimeter hex bit or Allen bit. Looks like about 3¼ inches space between the engine and the frame rail. So on a manual transmission, if you remove the flywheel, everything on the front cover, the oil, the timing chain cover, you have 3¼ inches of clearance. So when you get ready to remove the engine, there is a hidden bolt on the back side of the engine towards the transmission coming in the opposite way, and the only way you can get to it is with a bunch of long extensions. Let me see if I can get you. Alright, so on the very back of the engine, hold on 1 second. On the very back of the engine, right below the exhaust manifold, are two 18 millimeter bolts. So right underneath the exhaust manifold, two 18 millimeter bolts that hold the engine to the transmission. They are very hard to get to. So pretty much I used an extension with a universal joint with a piece of tape on it to stop it from completely falling, and another long extension. And then I went underneath the exhaust manifold into that bolt, and then right up here to this bolt. And I had to do that through the passenger side wheel well. So that is a pain in the butt. I just got done pulling the engine out of my 2007 Chevy Cobalt Sport. So here is the transmission. There are, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts holding the engine to the transmission. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on the bottom half, 1 right above the starter, 2 on the top, and then these 2 right over here on the back side of the transmission are very hard to get to. You have to get an extension that goes all the way down. Alright, so here's a view of the transmission with the engine out. There are 3 bolts holding the torque converter to the flywheel, and you access those through the starter. After you remove the starter, you can access the 3 bolts by spinning the flywheel around. Then there are 4 bolts at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts at the bottom. 1 bolt right above the starter, 2 bolts at the very top, and then these 2 bolts back here. There's 2 bolts that go right back here where they face outwards instead of in, because it goes into the transmission. These ones are really difficult to get to. I had to use an extension with another extension. Alright, and these last 2 bolts at the very top, right here, face towards the head faces the passenger side. So the only way to really access them is through the passenger side wheel well with a couple extensions and a universal joint. And then you put it on there and you twist it, put it on there and pull it out that way. And then go up here and do the same to that. Those 2 are the most difficult to get to. Most people don't even realize they're back there. And then, of course, you have to remove the bracket that goes from the transmission to the back of the engine. And then the top engine mount. And then, of course, all the accessories and stuff. On the automatic transmissions, you don't actually have to remove this mount right here. This is a transmission mount. On the manual transmission, you actually do have to remove it because it's mounted to the engine. It's the engine mount. And that is how you do it.